Welcome everybody to a brand new episode of the Iacino Show. This is episode 3 of our brand new season. Welcome back. I hope you've been enjoying the other 2 episodes we got going so far. And this show, it's like everything we did the other 250 shows. We're just a little bit more upfront about it. Yeah, we're always going to talk about how not to die at work, because that's what I do for my day job. And that's who we're sponsored by, IBC, Innovative Business Consultants, Innovative Benefits Consultants. If you need health insurance, if you need property casualty, general liability, workers' compensation insurance, if you need wellness, if you need safety risk management, that's the place to go. I mean, come on. So, we're always going to talk about that. But, I am Aaron Iacino, and I'm a multifaceted weirdo. I'm one of those crazy guys. My friend from Kentucky, safety man Tracy Matheny, who we've had on the show before, he likes to say about me, he said, that boy got a squirrel in him. And it took me a second to understand what he was trying to say, but squirrels are just running around all the time, just always on 100. It's rare to see a squirrel like basking in the sun and chilling. They're always working, man. They always run around. And they're kind of antagonistic and taunting sometimes and picking fights. I'm not trying to pick fights, but I'm also not going to back down from evil. But being that I got a squirrel in me, I do a lot of things. So I'm a pastor of the Holiness Church downtown here in Sioux City, Iowa. I also run the largest MMA gym in town called One Combat Academy. Of course, I'm the Director of Risk Management for IBC. I also teach Krav Maga online through the Global Martial Art University. And I'm also the front man of a band called the Dojo Saints, an original band, making original music, reggae, blues, rock, all kinds of stuff. So busy guy. So, the show is just going to talk about it. We're just going to talk about it all. And why not? We're going to talk about my passions. This is my show. Ha, ha, ha. I get to do what I want. Ha, ha, ha. I'm going to talk about self-defense. I'm going to talk about knives. I'm going to talk about pepper spray. I'm going to talk about swords. I'm going to talk about concealed carry. I'm going to talk about how not to die as a civilian, going to and from work and going to a concert and going out to eat and living your life and living above the terror. I'm going to talk about self-defense, all that stuff. So it's all wrapped up into one show. So let's jump right into it. You heard me mention our sponsor already, IBC. And this week for IBC, actually, technically, right now I'm doing some dosimetry for a client. And that's really important. That's kind of one of the safety things I want to talk about today. Hearing loss is no joke, man. And being an active trainer for police, military, SWAT, especially in the military arena, I don't know too many vets that come out of their service with good hearing. It doesn't matter if they did 4 or if they did 22. They get out, they got their hearing messed up. So hearing loss is definitely an issue for our law enforcement and military brothers and sisters, but it's also an issue for everybody on the job, man. And then, me being a guy who's in a band, it's an issue there. Me being in the shooting world, have a lot of friends that are avid shooters. It's an issue for them. So, hearing loss, hearing prevention is something super important. So today, I got a client that realized that, and they wanted me to bring my dosimeter out and slap it on one of their guys and put it on for 8 hours. And I'm going to calculate a time-weighted average, and we're going to see what the decibels are. And so that kind of leads us into our regulation of the day. I'm going to go construction for you for a minute. And I'm going to read it right out of this handy-dandy big old OSHA book. 1926.52 is your noise exposure. And if you go to the table on D2, it tells you how many hours a day, the maximum, the permissible exposure limit, if you will, the maximum sound decibels can you listen to. So I'll go with the 8-hour, folks, because that's a pretty common shift out there. We're looking at 90 decibels. That's it, man. So what does that mean? If you are doing 95 decibels on average, time-weighted average, 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week for a long period of time, you are most likely, super likely to suffer from irreversible hearing damage. Not correctable. I mean, you're not going to do a surgery, maybe you can get some hearing aids or something like that. But in it's pretty easy to be in a job where you're exposed to over 90. If you think about 90 as like your average little cheap push lawnmower, it's pretty loud. And there's generators, and there's welders, and there's impact wrenches, and there's ambient machine noise, there's traffic noise. Obviously, if you work in an airport, there's an airplane engine, jet noise. There's just so many industries where things are loud. You could just be building a house, just the constant, carpentry noises from the saws and the hammering. Not to mention everybody blasting their radios. You could work in heavy equipment. You got a tractor where the cab's not very sealed. You got a road grader. You got an excavator, and you just are exposed to a lot of running engine noise. So there's so many trades out there that are affected by this in construction and general industry, and we really want to get a handle on it. We don't want, obviously, from a business perspective, the OSHA recordables, the lawsuits, the settlements, the OSHA fines. Obviously, that's not good. Man, just the work comp claims from dealing with it all, how your insurance premiums may hike up as a result of it. Obviously, on the business financial side, it's no bueno. We don't want any of that. But just from the human side of it, if we're an employer, we don't want to have a work environment out there that's causing our employees to degrade, damage their hearing to the point where it's affecting their quality of life. I mean, if I'm the person running the show and my people are getting hurt, that they can't just take a pill and fix it, they can't just go to physical therapy for 3 days a week for 3 months and fix it. I mean, this is a bad thing. We're talking about really negatively affecting people's lives. And so, the business financial side of it, but just the human side of it. There's these terrible other things besides permanent hearing loss that comes. Tinnitus is one of them. Oh my goodness. Thank God that I have not developed that. But I know many, many people that have. When I'm teaching on hearing conservation, hearing protection, I usually ask the class if anybody has it. I'm telling you, 9 times out of 10, there's somebody raising their hand. I've had a couple that were born with it, but most of them, it was not congenital. It was work related. They worked in an industry where the employer didn't care about how many decibels people were exposed to, and weren't issuing PPE, and weren't engineering it away, and weren't doing work practice controls such as job rotations and things like that. No soundproof barriers, not isolation, not moving the noisy things away from people. Just didn't care. Oh, it's loud, tough it out. Who cares? I worked in loud environments when I was working my way up. Just kind of that mentality, old school. And man, they got tinnitus. Now, let me tell you a little bit about it for those who don't know. It's a constant ringing in the ears that never goes away. It never goes away. So imagine trying to sleep at night. And I actually have a clip of it, but I'm going to be more annoying and just mimic it. Now, of course, this is not going to be 100% accurate, but just imagine you're trying to sleep, and this is all you hear. Doo. Now, some of you guys already turned off because, man, I'm not listening to that. That's annoying. How long does that got to go? Turn that off. That's terrible. It could be more high pitched than that, too. It could be more annoying. That was just kind of the limits of my voice right now. But imagine trying to talk on the phone. Imagine trying to watch a movie. Imagine, you got headphones on, you got earbuds in. Imagine you're having a serious conversation with your significant other. Imagine you're in an important meeting. Just imagine you're at a movie. Anything you want to do, you're trying to pray. You're trying to listen to the preacher. Just imagine anything. You're trying to listen to this podcast. And that's in the background all the time. Just never going away. There's no drugs you could take. You can't hit your ear. You can't put stick your finger in your ears. Nothing you can do that's going to fix that. It's crazy. So a lot of your people, if you're an employer, or a lot of you out there, if you're an employee, are suffering from that condition from being exposed to over 90 decibels, 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. So let's, stop that. What are we going to do? Well, let's do some tests, like what I'm doing for my client right now. Let's get somebody qualified in dosimetry, and audio measurements, and let's go see what they're exposed to. Let's follow all the OSHA regs on it, and let's calculate a time weighted average, and let's just see where they're at. And man, if you got the abilities, depending on how many people you got, might just do it per position. But see, because one employee in one area has got different noise exposure than another in another area. So do a full on testing. Test all these positions. Test the different shifts. Let's just get some baseline data, like what's going on. What's everybody exposed to? Now, if you find out, oh my goodness, they're at 85. Now you got to kick in your hearing conservation program if you're in the general industry. You got to offer hearing protection. We got to start to try to engineer this away and make standard operating procedures. Now we got to start doing some work. It's over 90. Man, we got to get on this, man. This is bad. You got to start doing baseline audiograms for new hires, and then every year to make sure there's no shift in their hearing. There's a lot of work to do. So, it's just definitely good to know where you're at. And then number one, always substitution elimination engineering. Talking about the hierarchy of controls, the top 3 bad boys out there, the risk assassins. Let's kill, let's eradicate, let's terminate this risk. Let's knock it out of the park. Let's make it so it doesn't exist. Let's get newer equipment. Let's put some sound dampening, insulation around this. Let's move that loud machine away from the employee so it's not in the same room as them. Let's engineer this away. Then let's retest. Oh, look, we're at 82 decibels. We're good. Let's say that's not feasible. You just can't fund it at this time. All right, well, don't just jump to PPE yet. That's last resort. Let's try to do a standard operating procedure. Let's try to do some work practice controls, some administrative controls. Let's just limit the time the employee is doing this job. I know we used to have a person do it for 8 hours. But that was jacking up their hearing. So now let's have them do it for 4 hours. Because if I go to the same regs in the construction, let me go down to 4 hours. Man, they could be exposed to 95 decibels for just 4 hours. So short-term exposure limits are a little higher than your kind of 8-hour ones. So if we split that job into 2, one guy does 4 hours, another guy does 4 hours, boom, we're good there. Now, it's not the best solution in the world. What if there's a sick call? But it is a solution. So let's start looking at that. And then, of course, you got your PPE. You could go with muffs. You can go with earbuds. You can have custom fit ones. There's all kinds of stuff out there. Noise canceling ones. Yeah, it's all good, but you got to train people on it. And my experience is most people don't even know how to use that stuff. They don't even know how to align their ear canal to get the ear bud, the foamy in deep enough to drop the 10 decibels that they can do. They only drop about 10 decibels when you have them in right. And so I know it says like 32 NRR. That's a noise reduction rating. That's not how many decibels it actually takes off the ambient noise. So most employers aren't even training their people how to use them. They're just telling them to. And most people are rolling them up, shoving them in their ears, but they're not pulling their earlobe up and back to align the ear canal to insert the foam deep enough to cause that 10 decibel drop. So anyway, there's a lot to do, with this, but let's just start off with getting some data, seeing where we're at. And I hope you do some tests, and man, it's like, whoa, we're at 82. Then you don't have to do nothing. Just keep it as it is. But once you add a machine, once you add a task that's loud and it's happening all the time, you got to retest. So, think about that. One more quick little tip. I know not everybody can do this, but a lot of people have done this, is back to work controls, admin controls. Maybe you don't run all the machines all at once anymore. Maybe you like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're running these. Say you had 10 machines, you're going to run these 5. And then Tuesday and Thursdays, you run these. And you just kind of have this different way you do your work with not all the machines on at once. And then say you retest that on each one of those days, with half the machines running. And man, maybe you're down to 75, maybe you're down to 80 decibels. If that works for you, then you did it. You don't even need fancy, expensive engineering options, and you don't got to run the PPE program. The best way to do it is not to go with PPE. I know everybody freaks out when I say that, but that elimination, substitution, engineering is superior to PPE. So we want to avoid PPE. So, all right, that's your little tips on kind of your OSHA, occupational health safety, environmental, health kind of topic for the day. I want to give you guys a war update. Some of you guys are still listening to the bought and paid for mainstream media and getting your news from total bent bias sources. You're not getting facts, you're getting feelings. You're getting totally distorted, inaccurate news. So it's been a while since I did a war update with our beloved Israel. And of course, I'm biased towards Israel, but I am a pastor and a Bible believer, and I don't believe in the practice of lying. So I am not going to lie to you because of my biasness. If Israel does something wrong, I'm going to report on it. But I'm also not going to just do whatever my boss tells me and report a bunch of just erroneous slander, libel, blood libels against them because my boss hates them. Definitely not going to do that like the mainstream media does. So anyway, what is your war update? Well, man, so much has gone on. I'm recording this on October 3rd, and my goodness, this is almost October 7th since we started doing the war updates. It's been a year already since the evil Iranian proxy Hamas launched that barbaric, brutal attack on civilians of southern Israel. Israel always had a presence in Gaza, always. They're just, digging up, 1,000-year-old mosaics of King David from synagogues that were in Gaza forever. But they made a terrible mistake in 2005, thinking that their enemies actually really wanted peace and would actually give them peace if they just gave them some land. So in 2005, Israel withdrew every civilian, all the military out of their own chunk of their own country, the strip of Gaza. They backed out. The army went in and they forcibly removed their own people, Israelis and Jews, about 8,000. These guys were successful businessmen, families that lived in that area for 100 years. I mean, the cherry tomato was invented in this area. They're growing all these places. They have all these beautiful orchards and nurseries and thriving businesses. And the Israeli army went in there and they uprooted about 8,000 Israelis and Jews and made them get out of Gaza, and they gave it completely over to the Arabs. Now, the news is calling them Palestinians today, but you got to remember that name wasn't even invented to talk about the Arabs living in Judea and Samaria and Israel until the 1960s, when the Russians were helping them with their PR issues and said, you got to come up with your own name for these people and make them seem indigenous. You got to come up with your own flag for them. And the Russians helped construct that name. That's a brand new name. Yasser Arafat, the first leader of them, was Egyptian. So anyway, these Arabs over there, that the world is calling Palestinians, they were given Gaza. They were given their own state. The IDF, the civilians, all forcibly removed from there. And what they did since then was they created that into the biggest terror base the world has ever seen. They created all this foreign aid that the United States of America and the UN and all these first world countries were giving these poor Palestinians. You know what they did with that? They made the biggest terror base the world ever seen, over 300 miles of underground tunnels. It's crazy. So the Palestinian Authority was given the authority of that area, and they had elections, and they lost. Hamas won. And then what Hamas immediately did to the Palestinian Authority that was still there once they won is they took them on rooftops and they threw them off. They killed all their political opponents. And so now a brutal terrorist organization immediately took over Gaza as soon as the good IDF pulled out. And man, they took all the foreign aid that was coming to UNRWA. Is basically Hamas. Hamas people worked at UNRWA. They had bases in UNRWA, in the buildings, under the buildings. The teachers were teaching jihad and genocide. The UNRWA schools were teaching. If you get an UNRWA school book for elementary school, it's teaching to kill Jews. It's teaching to blow yourself up to kill Jews. It's just whack. I mean, this is a wacky, genocidal Hamas regime that's running the whole place. UNRWA was a joke in there. But Hamas is getting all this money from all the world, making this huge terror base, and their only goal is to destroy Israel. They're getting a ton of money from Qatar. Qatar gets like forgotten all the time how much they funded Hamas. And then also Iran is the main head of the snake. See, Iran hates Israel, so it's always trying to wipe them out. So they're pretty smart how they did this. These Persian folks are smart. They use Arabs as pawn. They could care less about the Arabs. They're going to fight Israel to the last Arab. Persians, in the, not all the Persian people, okay? I'm just talking about the Iranian government, the mullahs in Tehran. So they could care less about the Arabs. But anyway, Persian people are pretty cool. But the government regime, they're terrible, oppressive, jihadist, genocidal maniacs. Total a false narrative Islam that took over about 100 years ago, the whole jihad kind of form of Islam. But anyway, so these guys have built this ring of fire around Israel. So they're supporting Hamas in South Israel. They're supporting Hezbollah in northern Israel. And then they got all their proxies in Syria and Iraq. They even got some little teeny weirdo group, the Houthis in Yemen, as a part of this. And they're trying to surround Israel by proxies because they don't want to fight the war themselves. Like I said, they're pretty smart. So they're like, oh, it's not going to be Iran versus Israel. It's going to be these terror groups versus Israel. But it's really Iran because they're the boss and they're the person. And like I said, Qatar has helped out and other countries as well. But the main one's been Iran. So anyway, Israeli pulled out. Hamas took over, built a huge terror base October 7th of 2023. They launched their huge attack that they've been planning for those 20 years. And they broke several places in the border fence, about 20 different places. And then they flew over on hang gliders. They shot thousands of rockets indiscriminately at civilians. And their military, the militia, their terrorists or trained folks came in first. And then thousands, up to 6,000 of these so-called innocent civilians and followed them. And what Hamas and the civilians did in all those border towns for hours and hours and hours, because again, they did this on the Jewish holiday called Simchat Torah, which is coming up, which is when the Jewish people get to the last portion of the fifth book of Moses, the Torah, the Pentateuch, and then they roll the scroll back and start over the new portion cycle. It's a Sabbath as well, a Shabbat. So all the observant Jews aren't using electronic communications. All the families get together. It's like, Christmas. It's like a Thanksgiving for us. All families together. We're tuned off from the world. We're just trying to enjoy our family. We're just trying to, Americans don't really, enjoy God anymore. But, imagine if we were still a spiritual nation where we're going to church, we got our family, we're just kind of tuned out from the world. So Israel was in that phase when they attacked. And so these homes were filled with people who were all traveling to go back home to be with their family for Simchat Torah. And these folks came in and they just slaughtered these civilians. They cut their heads off. They would rape these women every time the women would move. They'd stab them in the back. And then once they gang raped the women, they would kill them. I'm going to tell it to you because this is a podcast, right? They were sticking their weapons in the women's genitalia and blowing them up and pulling trigger, cutting the breasts off women, throwing it around like it was a football. This is stuff all on video. They had GoPro cameras on it. You can't say they didn't do it. You could still find this sick, twisted, demonic, barbaric footage online. It's there. It's there. Many people have seen it. They put babies in oven, turned the oven on, and made the parents watch the baby bake to death at gunpoint and then killed the parents. I mean, it's just terrible. The most terrible, sick, insane, nasty, filthiest, just like inhumane things that you could think of. That's what they were doing last year, right? So, of course, Israel is going to. Oh, by the way, they took 250 hostages. And as of this date, there's still like 101 in captivity, and they believe only half of those are alive. Some of them are infant babies, man, who were like 1 at the time. They're turning 2 in captivity. Half their life, they've been living in an underground terror dungeon. A lot of the hostages were killed. A lot of the hostages, some were released with deals. The women are telling all the sexual abuse that they went through by their captors when they were in captivity. It's just a terrible ordeal, man. Terrible ordeal. Hamas, their training center, was named after Abdullah al-Maza, which was Osama bin Laden's teacher. I mean, these guys are just like ISIS, Al-Qaeda. Obviously, there's small differences, but super terrorists, man. So anyway, Israel's been at war with them since. And, man, our government and a lot of the world governments has really hamstrung them, delayed shipments of precision-guided bombs so they could kill less civilians. The world has really hampered them in doing their job and going in and getting their people back and taking out this terrible terrorist organization. So they're still at war over there in Hamas. So that's kind of the update with the southern front. They're cleaning up. They've taken out pretty much all the battalions of Hamas. Now it's just guerrilla warfare. They've got control of the Philadelphia corridor. They shut off all the supply that was coming in from Egypt. There's huge tunnels underground that you could drive full-size like semis through from the Egyptian border into Gaza. They cut off all the supplies so they're not getting any more rockets and missiles from Iran. So that's good. So that's wrapping up. And then the Houthis declare war. They started sending missiles and drones. So October 7th, Hamas struck. October 8th, Hezbollah on the northern side. Hezbollah is this evil terror organization that's killed many, many, many Americans. Many, many Americans. Hezbollah is another evil terrorist organization bigger than Hamas. They've taken over southern Lebanon. So they started October 8th just launching missiles. They've launched thousands and thousands and thousands of missiles. The Israelis, 60 to 100,000 Israeli citizens who live in the north of Israel have been out of their home for 1 year because of the nonstop rocket attacks. There's been multiple deaths. They hit a children's field where they were playing soccer and killed a bunch of kids, Hezbollah did. I mean, so this is an evil terrorist organization. No one cares about the 60 to 100,000 Israelis who haven't been at home for a year now. Imagine if you were out of your home for a year. So anyway, that went down. And once Israel kind of, was mopping up Hamas, they set their sights on their northern front of this battle. And oh my goodness, man, has the Lord just blessed them in defeating their enemies of biblical proportions. One of the strikes when they finally decided to really take it to them to defend their people and get their people back home was they sent 100 fighter jets and they hit about 270 targets, which is a miracle that 100 jets could go over there. Their spies got word that Hezbollah was going to do their big attack where they were going to send so many thousand rockets at once that was going to overwhelm Israel's defense system and just wipe out a huge part of Israel. They got word of when they were going to do it. They saw all the rockets coming out of the civilians' home. Yeah, of course, terrorist organizations, just like Hamas. Hezbollah hides their missiles and their rockets in homes of civilians, like rents rooms, rents garages, in homes. So anyway, they saw all of them coming out of hiding, and they struck first, man, preemptively. They went over there and they struck about 270 of those targets, hurt a lot of the missile shooting capabilities. They still were managed to get a few hundred of their missiles launched, and it only killed a chicken. So praise God for that. And then in this mastery spycraft, oh my goodness, this has got to be Hollywood movie worthy 100 times over. Nasrallah said, "Yo, Hezbollah, my people, my terrorists, quit carrying cell phones. They could track us that way. Don't worry, I'm going to buy us all beepers." And so they bought beepers they thought was from, a neutral country. It turned out to be Israel. And so they either had small amounts of explosives in them, or technologically they just knew how to, like superheat the lithium batteries in there and make them explode. Either way, when Israel got ready, they hit the button and they took out 100 to 3,000, not deaths, but took them off the battlefield. They're, when they beeped them all, people looked down at their pagers, so their eyes got damaged. They went to grab their beeper to angle it to see the number. Their hands got damaged, and their man parts got damaged. So it was just this amazing bit of spycraft, the most targeted, humane attack of all types. Imagine if you had thousands and thousands of enemies and you could only hit them and none of their family around them, none of the civilians around them. It's just such an amazing ethical thing, such precision with those. Like, Israel has the best track record in the world for combatant to civilian death. It's America can't even touch Israel. When America went into Afghanistan, when it went into Iraq after 9/11, which was done by the same philosophies of these jihadist terrorists, when America went to war, they killed so many more civilians than combatants, but not Israel. I mean, our army, our military studies Israel on how to do this urban warfare to minimize civilian deaths. Now, you wouldn't know that by watching the bought and paid for mainstream media. They just say, oh, genocide, oh, blah, blah, blah. They're just bought and paid for, trying to spew a false narrative. You got to go listen to guys like John Spencer on his podcast, Urban Warfare. These guys teach at our top military academies. They go study with Israel. They just applaud Israel. They know, they're like experts. They're the teachers of our military, and they're students of Israel. They go train with them. They go over there and they know them. They're just like in awe of how awesome the Israeli military is at killing combatants versus civilians. So anyway, this beeper attack happened. Took so many of their mid-level commanders out. That was just amazing. And then they got the main terrorist, the biggest terrorist in the world, Nasrallah. They just bombed his bunker as what we believe he was there watching Benjamin Netanyahu's speech at the new UN Council in America. That was the last thing he saw before he got blown up. So they took the head off that snake, and now they're doing some small ground incursions into Lebanon. See, there's this buffer zone on the border of Israel and Lebanon. There's this space in Lebanon all the way north to what's called the Litani River. And there was a UN vote that no militia was allowed to be in there. And the UN never enforced it, man. And so Hezbollah was able to go in there and build a huge terrorist infrastructure. But Israel actually had control of that area from the Litani River to their northern border for about 20 years. And then, the people, and I understand Israeli people, they get tired of their sons and daughters serving, getting killed up there to keep that land free from militia takeover again, from terrorist takeover again. And so the people kind of, complained a lot, and the government said, okay, fine, we'll pull out of southern Lebanon. But then Hezbollah just came in, and man, you just see where they're at now. So I don't know if they're going to retake that and hold that buffer zone from the Litani River. What the UN was supposed to do, but never did. The UN, by the way, is a joke. It used to be something cool. It was a League of Nations. After the World Wars, it was started to protect people like the Jews from people like Hitler. But now it's been taken over by jihadists, and now it's just the United Nations against Israel. Many people don't know this, but they have done more condemnations and aggressions towards Israel than every other country in the world combined. They're just out to get Israel. They're not the beacon of, protection. United Nations against evil, United Nations for good, United Nations against tyranny and Holocaust. That's what they started out as, but they're not that anymore. So they have never protected what they voted themselves to do and keep that buffer zone in southern Lebanon. So, but we're not done with your updates. It's been a while. I know this is going on long, but some of you guys care. Some of you guys actually understand that Israel's like God's time clock, like the stopwatch. Like if you want to know end times, where it begins and all that, I mean, you're watching Israel. Some of you guys got some biblical navigation skills, and you realize how important Israel is on this whole thing. And so you're watching, so some of you guys care. And by the way, quit watching mainstream media. Go to Israel 365 News. Go to JNS. Listen to YouTube channels and podcasts like Yishai Fleischer. You're going to get some good stuff, real stuff from boots on the ground, from people who are not going to lie to you because they're God-fearing people. But anyway, so let's go with the most current update. And there's been so much I didn't mention. But Tehran, the real evil head of the snake in Iran, they decided to do another attack because they did attack on April 13th. But this attack was like one of the biggest ballistic missile attacks in history. It was just insane. They shot 181 ballistic missiles. These aren't cruise missiles. These aren't these little ghetto rockets that Hamas had. These are ballistic missiles, sophisticated, people-killing machines. If just one of those hit an apartment, Israel would be burying hundreds. So they shot 181 ballistic missiles at Israel from Iran. And to God be the glory. Israel's technology, David Sling, Iron Dome, worked well. Our government, the United States government, said they shot some down. We didn't catch all 181 of those. There was several ballistic missiles that got through all of the defenses and actually hit the ground. But guess what? They didn't hit any populated areas. Praise be to God. They didn't kill God's chosen people. They didn't kill people who believe in the Bible. These ballistic missiles hit open areas, hit deserts, hit the Mediterranean. You want to hear something crazy? The death toll from this one of the biggest ballistic missile attacks in human history. You guys are living in, historic times. One of the biggest ballistic missile attacks ever in human history just happened a couple days ago. If you look at the map, the 181, the dispersal pattern, they were trying to wipe out all of Israel. They were trying to bomb the Sea of Galilee that Jesus walked on. They were trying to destroy the Temple Mount. They were trying to destroy Jerusalem. They were trying to destroy Hebron, Shechem, Shiloh, Bet El, Beersheba, all the places that you read about in the Bible. They were trying to blow them off the map. Look at the map of the dispersal pattern of the 181 ballistic missiles. But check this out. You guys ready for the death toll? You guys ready? Okay, in Israel, there was one so far that we know of, and it's been a couple days, so it's probably it. And it was one of these Arab Palestinians who escaped Gaza, and he was in Jericho. And he was celebrating these rockets from Iran coming to destroy the Jews. He was out there celebrating it instead of in a bomb shelter. And the Iron Dome went up and intercepted one of those ballistic missiles, and the shrapnel came down and fell and killed him as he was celebrating it. So I'll let you extrapolate that data and make your own analysis. But that's not it. There was 5 other deaths. Not in Israel, in Iran. The people who were launching the missiles, 5 of those IRGC members were killed in a misfire. So let me get my sarcastic tone on. Good job, Iran. You killed 5 of your own and 1 of your supporters in this attack, and no Jews and no Israelis. Okay. All right. That was my sarcasticness over. So it's far from over, but that's our update from now. So now you're all caught up. And I want to move on. I hope you've been enjoying the Dojo Saints music that we've been playing. And, if you kind of like the messages you're hearing on this podcast, our music's not much different. It's about God. It's about, good versus evil, righteousness, light versus dark. It's all that stuff, but just in music form. And we are playing a Battle of the Bands this Saturday at the Marquee. If you want to come see us live, we only get to play about 6 songs because there's like 4 or 5 bands and it's like a competition or whatever. But come down and support the Dojo Saints at the Marquee. Show starts at 8 p.m. this Saturday, October the 5th. downtown Sioux City, Iowa. Come check us out, rocking out, spreading the word, spreading the light, spreading the love, spreading the positivity, spreading the power and the strength and faith. So come check us out. If you can't make that, we are playing at the Holiness Church. How'd that happen? Well, yeah, I am the pastor of Holiness Church and the frontman of the band. So quarterly, we do concerts at the church. So it happens to fall on October 12th. And because it's our own show and venue, we're not going to be constricted by a promoter telling us, oh, you could play a half hour, you could play 45 minutes. No, we're going to play 2 hours. You can go home if you want. You can listen to 4 or 5 minutes, then split. It's all good. We're going to keep playing. If everybody leaves and we still got 8 songs left, we're playing those 8 songs, man, because we just love playing. Plus, we're recording it all and we're putting it out online and stuff like that. So October 5th at the Marquee, 8 p.m. I don't know if we're playing first, second, third, or last or what, but it starts at 8. And then October 12th, it's a little earlier, at 7 p.m. we're going to start. We're going to play till 9 p.m. Rocking out. We're going to play all our songs from our new album. And we got so much material. God is just like flowing through us, lyrics and music. Plus so much going on in the news that we put in our music. So we got enough material for our second and third album. We're even going to play those songs. So you're going to hear future songs that aren't even going to be on our new album coming out soon. So that's what we got going on. What else is new? As far as the church goes, on Sundays we've been covering the book of Revelations, end time, eschatology. And if you want to really know how this thing is going to unfold, come to Holiness Church Sundays and get the end times prophecy taught to you in a way that you could understand. And then if you want to learn the foundation of our faith, on Wednesday nights we start in Genesis 1:1. We're marching all the way through the Torah and then the Tanakh, and we're all the way into the book of Numbers right now. So come, it's like Bible college, man. Come learn. Come learn the Bible. Don't just hear a preacher preach for 3 hours and give you 3 scriptures out of context, how you need to give him money to fund his new car or church building. That's not church. Church, we're supposed to be teaching the Word of God. So you get a full chapter taught to you every single service. So that's what's going on at Holiness Church. All right, let's move on to One Combat Academy news. I forgot to mention this last podcast, so my bad. But so you guys may have not known about it, not went. But and you know, traditional martial arts kind of sometimes, doesn't make my radar. It should have though, because my own daughter was competing. But congratulations to our students at One Combat Academy from Sensei Johnny Chiro's school, American Judo and Jiu-Jitsu. They went and competed at Marshall's annual tournament. They held it at the Sergeant Bluff Community Center. It was a great success. Many people came. My daughter Tatiana, she competed in 3 events, and she got gold in one, silver in one, and bronze in another. And many of our students medaled in all the divisions that they went into under the tutelage of our great and fearless instructor, Sensei Chiro, 4th degree black belt in judo, licensed instructor and black belt in Kenjutsu, which is authentic sword fighting for the zombie apocalypse. When the bolts run out, you need to know how to run a sword. He's the guy to teach you that. And then also, he's a black belt and instructor in Shotokan karate, old school Cobra Kai karate stuff. So he loves all the Japanese arts. And so he teaches 3 Japanese arts at our school, and they competed in all 3 of those, from kumite point sparring to sword forms to empty hand forms, and even breaking. It was a good event. Hats off to Marshall Taekwondo Academy for putting on another good event. And so that happened last Saturday. But in other combat sports news, we have a big fight this month. Like I said, today is October 3rd. Coming up soon, like 2 weeks, on the 19th, we have 15th Round Promotions putting on an amateur boxing competition in Sioux Falls. And One Combat Academy, my school I run, the boxing program that I run, we have 6, count them guys, 6 Sioux Cityans fighting. And I'm really excited. We got Mario Barris. He's making his 2nd fight. And he took on an opponent. He could have turned it down, but he's a Marine. Mario's a Marine. And this opponent had 4 fights, and Mario's only had 1. And most guys would turn it down. He said, bet, let's go. So Mario Barris is going to be fighting a guy that has way more experience. So that's going to be exciting. And then we also have another fighter, Antoine. He's in the same boat. Actually, worse. He's making his debut. He's never competed before in boxing. And the opponent that they match him with has 4. And he said, let's go. So hats off to him. Oscar Hernandez is fighting. He's got a good match this time. And then who else we got fighting? Cesar Maddox. He's fighting. A local guy from Sioux Falls. So that'll be exciting. Cesar is a big help to us at One Combat Academy. He assists in the boxing and kickboxing program. Assistant coaches. Who else? Because we got 6. Oh, we got my boy Avery, new young man, who's making his debut. So that's going to be exciting. And then Enderbe. That took me a long time to get his name down. Both Enderbe and Avery, I'm excited to watch because they're just super aggressive guys, man. They just go for it. You want to see a fight. You don't want to see a bunch of people dancing around, hitting each other in the gloves. You want to see a fight with boxing rules. You got to watch these two. They're super aggressive. They're super awesome. Young Enderbe, he reminds me of our other boxing coach, Juan Carlos Campos Medina, as far as styles go. So that's going to be exciting. I think I left one out. We got Avery, Twan, Enderbe. We got Oscar, Mario, Cesar. No, I think that's it. So we got 6 guys fighting. It's going to be great. Plus, there's this match I'm really looking for. One of our former students who had all the potential in the world. He was so talented. He actually moved from Sioux City to Omaha down at B&B, but Crawford's gym. His name's Chris Gomez. He's going to be fighting somebody from Sioux Falls who's another up-and-coming stud, Preston Moss. So that is going to be the fight to watch for sure. Man, 15th round, they put out incredible fighters, and so does B&B, obviously. So that is going to be one exceptional match to watch. So I'm excited for October 19th. I'll be working hard. I'll be coaching and cornering 6 of my guys, but I'm going to sneak away to watch some of these other killer fights. Plus Zeke Castro, another local Sioux City kid. He's a man now. He's 18 or 19. About to go pro. Might be his last amateur fight, guys. You should go watch his last amateur fight before he turns pro. I think he got matched with the B&B guy too. They both got like a million fights. So that's going to be just an insane fight. There's so many good fights on this card, guys. You got to go. Plus, 15th round is doing something unique. They're putting on some kind of music show. They didn't hire the Dojo Saints, but that's okay. I won't hold it against them. It's Hispanic music, I think. I'm not sure. Mariachi style cumbia. I'm not sure. It looks like a Hispanic band. It's going to start at 9 p.m. after we all get done beating each other. But just the same ticket gets you into both events. So you could buy tickets, I think, at ticketspice.com, 15th round promotions. Just Google it, you'll find it. And it's not a huge venue, so it'll probably sell out. So you might want to get your tickets now. All right, so that's 10-19. The same promoters, 15th round promotion, on 11-9, they're coming down here to our neck of the woods. They're going to El Ranchito restaurant in South Sioux and putting on an amateur and pro fight. They're bringing in professional boxers from all around the country to go head-to-head in our area. We have our very own Juan Carlos Campos Medina making his 5th pro fight, and he's fighting some guy out of, I think, Arizona. And, man, you got to go see our Coach Carlos fight. He is impressive, to say the least. Another local pro, John Torres out of Lobos, they say it's one of his toughest bouts yet as far as like a really competitive match with a really even opponent. So if you want to go see him do battle, you could come. I think that's just the 2 local pros. There's supposed to be 5 amateur fights, so that's 10 amateur boxers, and some maybe from our gym. They haven't matched yet, so more news on that to come. But that's also a small venue. El Ranchito is a cool venue, but it is small. And last time we had a show there, it did sell out. Many people showed up to the door to get tickets and were turned away, and they were mad. So buy your tickets now, and buy them in the name of Juan Carlos Campos Medina, by the way. That way he gets credit for it. All right, moving on. 11/22 at the Astro in Omaha. Dynasty Combat Sports is putting on an MMA event, and 2 Sioux City fighters are competing there. The out-of-town Sioux Cityans going on down to fight Nebraska It's always exciting. We got two of our guys, and we got Trevor Tomosin and Niman Sidel, and two gifted fighters. Let me take a sip here, and let me be real annoying in the mic. Just a sec. I'll see how annoying I can be. I normally don't sound like that, but let's be annoying. If you're on a podcast, it's really hard to take a drink and not be annoying. So I just might as well lean into it. But anyway, man, I forgot Trevor's record. My bad. But dude's got a lot of fights now. I think it's probably 6 or 7 fight. And the guy that they gave him is supposed to be no joke. This guy that they give him, they're really thinking he's like the next heavyweight MMA prospect coming out of Omaha. So it's going to be exciting. I got my boy Trevor. He's amazing. He's good on his feet. He's good on the ground. His jiu-jitsu solid. His wrestling solid. So that's going to be exciting. He's coming off a 2-fight win streak. So, and then Niman, he's just another gifted fighter. He's putting in the work. Plus, he has natural ability, and he, many of you guys that know the fight scene. There's this local legend around here, Draco Rodriguez, who trains at One Combat Academy. He's kind of taken Niman under his wing and really helped him out with everything, but mainly his boxing. So Neiman's boxing's on point. And his first debut fight he made, he just outboxed this guy who he shouldn't have, because this guy was a head taller than him with ton reach. And Neiman outboxed him, then he out wrestled him and ground and pounded him. Great display. So I'm really looking forward to these two guys. So that's going on 11/22 at the Astro in Omaha for Dynasty Combat Sports. And then bias coming through here, bias alert, 12/14, December 14th, at the Iowa State Fairgrounds, Battle Zone Kickboxing Championships is putting on another fight. Coach Anthony Porcelli running that. He's doing a killer job putting on these kickboxing fights for us. And my son, Samuel Randall Iacino, he has the nickname of the Prophet, Samuel the Prophet Iacino, is fighting not just for a kickboxing title, but for a Muay Thai kickboxing title. Hats off to Coach Anthony Porcelli for adding Muay Thai to his American K1 style kickboxing events. So Sam's fighting at 135. He's trying to take the belt from the Tough Luis. I think his last name's Gatson, who has the belt now. I think he has 2 belts, if I'm not mistaken. I think he has the Muay Thai title and the kickboxing title. And yes, they are different. Muay Thai is way cooler. Bias alert. It allows elbows and knees and clinch fighting and sweeps and dumps and trips and stuff like that. And kickboxing is, just your basic boxing punches with roundhouses. Those guys barely knee. They barely do any teeps. They don't clinch. They're only allowed 1 strike in the clinch. So it is a different sport. They're both kickboxing, but there's just a lot more to it. So anyway, that's going down. So I know that's a long drive for you Sioux Citizens to drive 3 hours to see a local guy fight for a title, and it won't be televised and it won't be streamed. So the only way to see that is to go live. But that's going on. All right, so we've talked about IBC, we've talked about Holiness Church, we've talked about One Combat Academy, we've talked about the Dojo Saints. I want to give you, we even did our OSHA reg for the day, 1926.15 or .52, the noise exposure. We covered that. So let's go to a scripture for the day. I was on one of these online forums, and this guy got on there, and he was just real confused. He's like a lot of Christians, been to many churches. If you're 30, 40 years old, and you're a Christian who actually tries to go to church, you probably moved around. You've probably been to a handful of churches. Some people have been to 20 different churches. And so you hear different things in everyone you go to. A lot of similar stuff, but a lot of different stuff. So this guy gets on one of the forums and said, can anybody help me out like scripturally? Not denominational, not like what your pastor teaches, but like scriptures. Is baptism essential to salvation? And so that's what we do at the Holiness Church. We're first century Christianity. We're original Christians. We're not, most denominations in America today were started in the 1500s in England. They were started 1500 years after Christ started original Christianity. And so they're super different. People don't even know it. They think they're good old fashioned, denomination that they're in America is like original Christianity. It's European Christianity. People don't even know the difference between what Jesus taught and what their denomination teaches. But of course, it's going to be way different when some guy makes up something 1,500 years later that's only based off the original. So this guy, I applaud him. He was a truth seeker, a Bible seeker. He didn't want denominational answer. He can get that at any church. He wanted to know what the Bible said. So I shot him 10 baptism scriptures so he could read for himself the truth. I wasn't even going to tell him yeah or no or kind of it's complicated. I didn't want him to hear it from the lips of the man. I just gave him scriptures on the Word of God so he could go check it out. And obviously, being a first century Christian, my favorite scriptures of all time are red letter. What's that mean? Red letter, if you got a red letter edition of the Bible, it's everything that Jesus said is in red letter. So when Paul's talking, it's black. Moses talking, it's black. King David's talking, Solomon's talking, all those cats, James, John, all of them, when they're talking, it's black font. But when Jesus speaks, it's red font. So when I see red letter in my Bible, I just kind of perk up. I was already perking up a little bit because, dude, I'm totally down with Paul and James and John and Peter. Those are all Jesus' disciples and all that jazz. So yeah, I totally listen to them and believe everything they're saying. But when it comes from the Master himself, the Son of God, the Mashiach, the Messiah, I'm totally, totally, totally listening instead of just totally, totally listening. So anyway, I wanted to shoot this guy some red letter answers. So today's verse, I'm just going to quote it from you, comes from the book of Mark, chapter 16, verse 16. Jesus, red letter, said, "He who believeth and is baptized shall be saved, and he who believeth not shall be damned." So scary, scary language. You don't hear that stuff in churches today. They've watered it all down so the pastors can keep a big congregation so they can stay rich. So they don't really teach those cold hard facts anymore straight from Jesus. But never trust the preacher. Look it up for yourself. Check out the scripture of the day in Mark 16:16. But as always, don't take that scripture out of context. Read the whole chapter. Get it in context, what Jesus was saying and all that. So read for yourself. Read for yourself. And then, then you answer the question to that guy. Is baptism essential for salvation? The scriptures are our guide, not the pastors. Pastors are just supposed to be teaching us the scriptures. The scriptures are our guide. One of my biggest spiritual battles that I'm fighting so hard for is that all Christians come under the authority of the scripture, not our pastors, not our denominations, not our organizations. Let's let the boss not be our pastor, not our presiding bishop, not our diocesan bishop, not the pope, not the reverend, not the apostle, whatever names they're giving themselves to make themselves seem super big and important. We're not under them. We're under our high priest Jesus. We're under his teachings. His teachings are our authority. If he said it, it's true. If he said to do it, we're supposed to do it. If he said don't do it, we don't do it. He's our high priest. He's the one that we're following if we're truly Christian. That's my battle, to get us away from all these man-made twists on the Christian faith and get us back to the source, which is the Bible. So that is your scripture for the day. Okay, so we're going to close out because we're about at an hour. And I hope you've been enjoying the Dojo Saints music from our live performances. Pretty soon they're going to be the clean, clear, crisp studio mastered versions. But we're still in the studio. We got another studio booking on the 26th. We'll be in there all day, knocking out a couple more songs. But anyway, today's song is about this war that we spent so much time on today. It's about Hezbollah. It's about Hamas. It's about Iran. And his song is aptly named War Crimes. So until next time, everybody, stay safe. Remember to keep your questions, comments, your emails coming in. AaronIacino@yahoo.com is my personal email. So feel free to email me that. That's AaronIacino@yahoo.com. But also, enjoy the song from the Dojo Saints by yours truly called War Crimes. All right, God bless you, everybody.